Today, we're talking about injuries in sports. I'm an expert. I have had 23 surgeries, and I have gone through sports, played with a broken neck, played with a torn rotator cuff. I get it. I've been there. Young athletes, how do you handle injuries so that later on in life, you're not going to have problems with it? And how do you deal with them at the time? What should you be doing? What should you be thinking? Talking to one of the greatest human performance coaches in America today, my teammate, my friend, Ethan Banning, who is also recovering from a little sports injury himself, though he didn't hurt it on the football field. We'll talk about that as well. Coming up right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Elite Athletes TV. I'm Mike Pulaski, former 11-year pro quarterback and quarterbacks coach here at EliteAthletesTV.com. If you're new to the channel, you love football content, you love sports performance content, we're talking sports performance today, make sure you subscribe, ring that bell, get notified every time we have new content coming out, and give us the thumbs up and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. What do you want to hear about? Because we have some coaches here who can answer a lot of questions that are burning a hole in your head right now. So send us comments. We'd love to hear from you about it. Right now, we're talking to Coach Ethan Banning, our human performance coach here, strength and conditioning coach, as I remember it from my old days. And we're going to talk about sports injuries. What should athletes be doing, younger athletes, to take care of those injuries? How should they treat them? What are the rest periods? All that stuff coming up. He's not just a strength and conditioning coach. He's also a human structural health specialist. Did I get that right, EB?
It's close enough.
Yeah, I'm Polish, so what do you want, right? I can't get it all perfect. Talk to me about sports injuries. We got a running back that I coach in high school now, and he's got a bad ankle. Guy's great. He's going to be our starting running back. He plays corner. There is no quitting this kid. He's going to go, 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 go. And I'm trying to tell him, get off your ankle, give it a break. Now, I know that we don't want to completely shut it down, right? Because we want to keep those motor functions going. But how much is too much? How much is not enough? What should athletes that have an injury kind of as we get close to camp here be doing with it?
And those are fantastic questions. I think a lot of people want to know that information. They are the $64,000 question, if you will, in that what's too much, what's not enough. And I want to address first, a lot of people when they get hurt, because I think that there are athletes that are like this young man you speak about, but far more athletes are the other way. Well, my shoulder got hurt, so I go into a depression. I'm maybe outcasted from the team, and I don't, and sort of spiral downward. And I believe strongly, and in our performance therapy clinic, we do this a lot with folks, and I'm kind of my own lab rat, if you will, but making sure that we have high activity. Like I have an injury to my shoulder, not to my person, right? So I have lots of other things I can be doing. I could lift with this arm. I can be walking mileage. So our heart is a pump that pumps the blood through our body that creates oxygenation of cells, which gets bruising out faster when used and helps the healing process move along readily. The same thing's true with this young man you speak about, but he may be going about it a bad way because he's pushing on that joint that's injured. He's maybe still trying to run or jump or do things like that. He can still get blood flow going. He can still do things to improve himself. And there's so many aspects of the sport that can be done that have nothing to do with physical movement. What books are you reading? What, personal development are you doing? Are you reading about, the greats at your position? Do you understand more fundamentally what it means? In this case, he's a running back. As a former offensive line coach, I certainly want to know, well, what sort of protection understanding do you have, son? Like, because I don't want to get the guy behind you killed. So, or the guy in front of you, depending on the set. Right. But, I want to make sure that. So how much do you understand those things? There are always things to be working on, but specific to those questions, the thing about like a hamstring or an ankle or something of that nature, I always contend it's better to rest a week too long than come back a moment too early, because then 3 weeks into the season, we're still have a nagging injury in one of those places. 6 weeks into the season, we may not even be able to play. Come playoff time, our best player is sitting on the bench because they didn't take that extra week. Now, A week off doesn't mean a week of nothing. It means maybe we're riding the bike, maybe we're doing the arm bike, maybe we're doing prehabilitative, or in this case, rehabilitative neuromuscular reeducation movements that we would do in physical therapy, so that we're teaching the brain to connect again with the body. The issue with like ankle injuries is this: when the ankle goes out of its intended range of motion, it trains the brain that that is now okay for that ankle to move that far when it's actually not. So we've got to teach it better control. So when we stand on a board and we balance and do this sort of thing, we're teaching these proprioceptive musculature to connect with our brain again, to have control of the end ranges. Now, an ankle joint's a fairly complex joint of the body. In fact, 26% of our bones and joints are in the feet and ankles. So there's a lot of moving parts there, and which means there's a lot of musculature there. There's lots of ligamature there. So making sure that, you know, this young man has the input of an expert is going to be really important. Beyond that, taking some advice from somebody with some wisdom that's been, you know, in and around the sport of football, like yourself, is going to be wise too. You know, the challenge is knowing who to listen to and who not to listen to. And as always, I think, in fact, I think that the reason that we started EliteAthletesTV.com was because there is so much background noise out there that who's to say whether it's good or bad and those sort of things.
Yeah, and everybody's got an opinion, right? Like the term "I don't know" has gotten out of our vocabulary. Somebody asked me a question about O-line play that I don't understand. I'll say, I don't know. You need to find somebody. But a lot of people just want to give you an answer, whether they know or not. They may just be making it up on the way. And so getting facts from people who understand what they're doing, I think, is a fantastic point.
It is. And then, I mean, I think it's really compelling to your point. Like, I know you well enough that you would say, well, I don't know the answer to that, but I certainly have a resource that I can help you with. You know, so if you're not getting the answers to the questions, maybe ask a different question. I mean, that's a two-way street. It's not just the person answering the question, the person asking the question. Now, that may be expecting a lot out of a teenager, and I believe that it is, but I think those lessons are important to be taught. But that said, when we're looking at the ankle, giving it a chance to rest and recover and doing appropriate modalities to reconnect the brain and those proprioceptive musculature, so that he can start off the season on, you know, a healthy foot and ankle is going to be really critical to his long-term success. Now, there's always a balance point there. That's the thing. You know, a lot of people talking about overtraining these days, and where are we pushing too hard? I mean, you think Jerry Rice ever worried about overtraining?
No.
Like, I mean, yeah, that's what. So I kind of go back and forth. And when I have a kid like this, I'm like, well, you know, I mean, psychologically, do they need to feel like they're doing more? So you've got to figure out a way to let them do more without regressing at that ankle joint. And that's the dilemma. And that's where an expert comes into play. And that's where an expert that has gotten a jock sweaty is really important. Like, there are lots of physical therapists that are really brilliant out there, but they know what the book says, but maybe they never participated. Like, as an example, like this elbow right here exploded just after halftime in a pro football game. I played the rest of the game. This shoulder, I tore the rotator cuff at the beginning of the season and played the whole season. Then they fixed it. You referenced earlier, I had, you know, ocean going surfing incident roughly a year ago.
So that is not a weight room injury on Coach Banning that you're seeing right there. That sling is from an outdoor sport. Coach Banning, who was a Midwestern kid, became a surfer later in life to surf with the girls. And that's how he injured finished injuring the shoulder, I should say.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I mean, it's one thing to be tough. It's another thing to be intelligent. And hopefully we can blend those two things. And so I call that wisdom, right? So Payne being the teacher and taking intelligence and all of a sudden turning it into wisdom. And that's what we hope to help our young athletes with. So finding, you know, that human performance person, like in this case, we do a wonderful job with, you know, the strength conditioning, the prehabilitative exercises. But I would say, as far as the rehab perspective, probably for the sake of this young man, we'd want to get him in the hands of somebody that's a specialist, that's what they do, and give his ankle some time to recover. What do you guys go to camp in about a month? Is that about right?
Yeah, almost exactly a month. We start up like just under a month, like 28 days.
So I like to use a term called retrograde analysis. It's what chess grandmasters use when they're putting you in checkmate, and they work from checkmate backward. And so I want to ask this young man, well, what's he looking to try to achieve? Where's he trying to be in December or November, or what's the season going to look like for him? And if in 4 weeks he's not able to run 25 plays, roughly 25 to 35 plays, where he has the ball, or the other 25 to 35 plays where he's blocking, then what's he going to achieve come November or December? What's that going to look like?
Right.
And I don't want to scare
reps in July. How does that help you once you got pads on?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what are we doing to achieve that? That's the big thing.
And that's a great segue, because Coach Banning, as I said, has his program in terms of workout blocks, in terms of strength and conditioning training, agility training, flexibility, muscle tone. He gets everything about the athlete. He's been an athlete. He's a pro athlete. He's got world championship rings to prove it. He has trained pro athletes. He's trained Olympians. And so he understands not just the physiology of sport, but he understands the psychology of it too. And he puts both those together in his training program. There will be a link down below. We'll pin it to the top so you guys can get to it. It's brand new and improved, ease of access. You can track your progress. It has daily workouts. It has a schedule for you. You can get through it. And so that you can improve your strength, your conditioning, your speed, your agility, and your mental toughness to go along with that, and train a lot of the movements that you're going to face in sport. And so as an athlete, I've worked with a lot of strength and conditioning coaches. There's a couple of them that I really respect. EB is on the top of my list in terms of guys that I respect in terms of programs, what he does with athletes.
A key point that I really want to touch on, something I'm super proud of, and is that in the programming that I developed, I integrated in with our strength conditioning those prehabilitative, what we call reset movements, with the main movements that help protect our athletes from injury and help them improve their performance. I've seen, functional movement screens and different, movement analysis, the screens that are taken, and usually the athletic trainer or the strength coach or both takes those, and then they take that data and they put it on the shelf somewhere, and it never really gets actionable. Nothing's really ever done with it. And I learned from a guy named Joe Ken, who was strength coach for Arizona State and the Carolina Panthers, and we worked together for a number of years. And Joe had really improved upon Mike Robertson's program of the 7 hours of program design, and Joe made it the 8, and I made it into the 10. And I learned from those guys, and then really perfected that program where we integrate prehab exercises with performance in a manner that's efficient and effective to develop athletes, in a holistic manner. The thing that I always thought was missing throughout training over the years was like, well, we're getting stronger here, but are we preventing injuries? And so many people want to put this in this box or in this box or in this box, or they talk about like shoulder health as an example. Well, like as a thrower, you want to have a healthy shoulder. Well, guess what? As a lineman, I want to have a healthy shoulder too. Or as a safety, or people want to talk about baseball players. And I'm like, well, strong safeties take as much abuse to their shoulders as any athlete going, right? Because they're coming downhill, striking people. And if we don't do the things to protect that joint, we're going to have significant injury in and around that joint. So making sure that we designed a program that would develop the athlete to protect themselves. We're looking to create an athlete that we can protect to the best of our ability. Now, we're only mitigating injury, but we want to mitigate it to the best of our ability. We want to improve performance to the best of our ability. And, I'm super proud of the program that we developed to help athletes mitigate injury and improve performance at the same time. Super critical.
And that's my segue to you, EB, in terms of preventative. Talk about in the weight room, in the agility training, on the field, what can athletes do to prevent it? Now, with a month left to camp, they got some time to get their bodies right going in.
Well, I think that it's really critical to understand both force application, which is performance, and then force absorption, which is injury prevention. So I see lots of jumping videos on YouTube and people that are just really bastardizing a jump, but there's not a lot of information about how to land properly. And so when we look at injury in sport, particularly like non-contact knee injuries or ACL injuries, because we have effectively, from a jumping perspective, because running is just a series of jumping from one leg to the other, we land and then we cut. So when you look at how to absorb force properly and then reapply force, that's where we're really doing a nice job of preparing the athlete for sport. Now, so as an example, in a change of direction drills, 100% of the time in our change of direction drills, I make our athletes cut and redirect half their reps off their right leg and half the reps off the left leg. And the reason is, and you know this, you played basketball too. So when you did what they used to call suicides or line drills, the kids would run and they would right foot cut, 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 right foot cut. Well, guess what? In sports, when I'm playing defense or I need to dribble drive or any of that in basketball, and I got to push off my left leg, all of a sudden I can't do that. Or it collapses under me and my ACL tears because I haven't done that. Making sure that we're developing force application and force absorption capability is so critical. And just one example of that is how we plant and redirect. And there are countless ways to do that. I see far too many people working on all horsepower, no brakes. And if the car can't stop, it's going to wreck. So making sure that we are working on all aspects of that car, both tires, transmission, engine and brakes, harness, roll cage, the entire system has to work congruently for, that car to perform on the racetrack. The same thing's true with the athlete. And what we do is we take all those aspects, I call it the 10 R's of program design. And those R's are a bunch of R words that stand for release and reset and redirect and rapidness, and a bunch of R's that would break down specifically and roadmap what the athlete needs to go from, Scottsdale, Arizona to Newport Beach, California. You've got very specific directions. We're not just guessing haphazardly along the way. We want to know exactly where we're going, when we're going, why we're going, how we're going. And that's what we do here at eliteathletestv.com. And I think it's critical that when you're working toward that goal, that you've made sure to turn every stone to have that level of success.
And it's not just players, right? Individual players, you can get this. Fantastic. Teams, coaches, if you are looking to help your players get better, it's in the link down below. I'm telling you, it will blow you away in terms of how much thought has gone into Coach Banning's programming. I played 11 years of professional sports. I played football for 11 years professionally. I played 5 years of college football. I have announced professionally both pro and college football since I finished playing. And I've seen all these strength and conditioning programs come and go. I had never seen anybody training the redirect, the absorption, landing. How do you land coming off of a box jump? It was always, you get to the top of it and you were kind of done with your brain and your thinking until you were through. I come down, I watch EB train players. I'm like, oh, dude, that makes so much sense. And then how do you redirect off of that? And so these are the things that go into Coach Banning's programming. Again, link down below. Make sure you get to it. EB, I appreciate you coming on today. I know we got to go quick here. I'm going to kind of get off. We tend to go long, you and I, because we talk and there's a lot of information out there. But love having you on every time, talking about sports performance training. Love talking about getting athletes better, right? Improving conditioning, improving speed, doing the things that make athletes better, and improving toughness. So thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate having you here today.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Good seeing you. Take care.